is the ego there? So the answer is no, the ego's not there. What is it? But really, something's there, something that wants you to survive. So the ego is there fundamentally. Something is there. Now, the way to tell if you're speaking from your ego is if you desire to manipulate or have dominance. So in stage red, this is where the issue of dominance came about. In my 4 patterns, you have esteem that takes place in stage red, right? So esteem is good. You want to give back. But no, tier 1 esteem is way different than tier 2. And so therefore, anytime you want to dominate or manipulate, that's where the unhealthy parts of the ego are manifesting. But in tier 2, yellow esteem is about giving back. You create something in order to give back. So even though you want to be the top in your game, it's in order to give back to society, and it's a very developed version of the pursuit of esteem. So that said, there is no ego, especially since the main ego we're actually talking about that's an issue is the domineering one. So the way to tell if you're talking from your ego is if you have a slight tingle in any lower part of your lower chakras, above the root, below the navel. If you have any slight tingle, any sensation whatsoever when something happens, that's how you know the ego of dominance is present. And of course, dominance and sexuality are connected because base instinct-wise, that's how stage beige and stage red went about their human nature. They pillaged and they took what they wanted. So therefore, that's how you tell when your ego is present. When you're talking to anyone and a slight tingle happens, that's how you know honesty has left you. And in tier 2, you understand that other people will pick up on this. For one reason or another, the moment someone gets a sense that my ego is present, they also don't like what I say. So there's an interconnection, an intuitive vibe. I don't exactly know the science. There are several possibilities why this happens, but we'll just stick to the idea that later tiers understand that that mistruth and manipulation or dominance are connected, and whether or not they know it connects to sexuality, probably not. That's still up for discussion. Now, is the ego good in any way? Yeah, the ego has its place, but remember, the ego's never gone. The ego just evolves. And so once you get into stage tier 2 yellow, the ego is so, you don't need to worry about manipulating, that your words are coming from manipulation. But there are ounces of stuff that are going to always be percolating all the way to stage clear. You're always going to have little ounces of ego that want to speak. Now, this may be less of an issue depending on whether or not you got your needs met as you evolved, but that's just something to keep in mind. That if there's a slight tingle of I want to dominate or manipulate you, that's how the ego is speaking. And the problem with that, it's a poison on your mind, because then you're not going to have truth. You're going to be a little further away from truth, and they'll sense that. And your mind won't think as fluently because the lower chakras get activated. The desire to dominate is a lower chakra. Now, the human nature and DNA and stuff may evolve in a decade, but for now, we have to be concerned about this until amber and red are into orange and green. And right now, there's too much of a remnant maybe in the next 5 years, but right now there's too much of a remnant to trust yourself. Now the ego starts to evolve more and more as you ascend. By the time, I don't remember how the ego felt in coral, but I think you felt peace, but you also felt like there was something there. But I don't want to talk about that. Right now I want to talk about clear, because most people who follow me want to enter into clear. So I made this chart, but it's all messy now. Oh, I can't see myself. So basically, the ego is like an empty tank. Sorry, the stage clear ego is like an empty tank, and what happens is you get a little rageful. You get little sediments in the tank, in the heart. Something bothers you here. Something bothers you here. Something bothers you here, and eventually it moves to the bottom. So you have little sediments that are at the bottom. Okay, and when you get stirred up, it gets all messed up. And so really what you want to do is you want to find some way to dissolve all that junk so that it doesn't even have to fall to the bottom. It just dissolves. Okay, so the way to do that is you journal. You journal. And by journaling, what you're going to be doing is acknowledging that you feel rageful, pinpointing what exactly you feel rageful about, and ask yourself in the journal, how am I managing this? What am I doing to manage this rage? So, an example might be stage orange is manipulative and apathetic, right? Okay, that bothers me. So, now it doesn't bother me as much for whatever reason. But basically, I would write, how am I managing this? I accept that spiral dynamics is going to keep the spiral pattern is going to keep evolving humans. So it's not going to be an issue forever. So I acknowledge there's a problem, and I also acknowledge how I'm managing it. And by acknowledging how I'm managing it, I also come up with a solution in my head simultaneously. And for some reason, that dissolves the sediments. Okay? It dissolves the sediments that are not, so they're no longer, they leave or they disappear, and there's nothing that could fall down to grow poisonous plants or poisonous fumes. And when someone makes you angry, when you have a situation that you don't like, there's not going to be all this stuff going on to make the tank cloudy and murky. Rather, it's just going to be, there's not going to be anything to make it murky. And all the stuff at the bottom you could deal with. Look, there's a part of my heart right there. I felt it. It's stuff that needs to be dealt with. Some of it's repeating stuff. But if you deal with these things, the rage won't ever come up. But what happens is some people in stage clear, or people evolving, don't know about this. So and they're also trying to spiritually bypass. They're also trying to say, I can't feel anger. I can't be negative. So what happens is tons of sediment keeps going, and it keeps growing. And then when bad things happen to them, it's just, And so in a worst case scenario, you have someone in an advanced tier who too many bad things happen to them in the way they don't like, and then all the murkiness reaches their head, and they may go into psychosis or an alternate state of consciousness to act on the rage. And that could have been avoided if they understood how the evolution of the ego takes place. So yes, you don't feel sad in stage clear, and you're much more happy when you're happy. But there's a different way that you need to go about the ego, how you function. So that's something to keep in mind. And what is the ego? Is that the ego? Well, the ego is everything. It's the whole person. So the ego is not good. The ego is not bad. It's just it's the person's way of functioning at a given stage. Now, if you have the red domineering ego percolating, yeah, that's bad. That's poison. We're way past that. So don't let that interfere into your mind space or into your bodily chakra system at all. Don't speak from it. If it percolates, quickly say something that's more truth than the previous truth, so that the domineering stage red nature, it just disappears before it even has any blossom at all. Oh, so I'm getting enthusiastic. That's the ego, right? Like I said, the ego it evolves. So the evolved ego is this person, right? And the less evolved ego is the impediments that want to dominate. And those impediments, those sediments, those interfering facets, that's from stuff that didn't get dealt with, and that will be taken care of as we evolve as a society and we stop domineering from our stage orange pastime and our stage red pastime, and the stage red that's been infused into orange. Okay, that's very important. All the best. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you understand now a little better what the ego is it good or bad, how to handle it. Take care.